You're listening to The Unseen Scars, a space for real voices, real pain, and real stories that often go unheard. We narrate anonymous entries from people who need to get it all out, from the quiet corners of the internet where hearts are laid bare. Tonight's story is about the final signature. About a man sitting across from the person he built a life with, realizing it's all over, and she won't even meet his eyes. It's called Signed Papers, Silent Tears. Here goes the story. I need to get this out before I lose my nerve. I've written this and deleted it maybe 10 times. It feels pathetic to even put it into words, but the silence is just too loud. It's the pen I remember most. Isn't that strange? Out of everything, the whole decade, the house, the arguments, the laughter, the thing that's burned into my brain is the cheap blue Bic pen the lawyer slid across the table. It was probably chewed on. It had that little white cap, but it was cracked. A throwaway pen for a throwaway moment. Except the moment was my entire life. The office was cold. Not just the temperature, but the feeling. Beige walls, a framed print of a sailboat that nobody has ever looked at twice. The lawyer's chair squeaked every time he shifted his weight, which was often. He was trying to be gentle, I guess, using that soft, almost pitying voice that people use when they're talking about something awful, but it's their job, so they can't actually feel it. It's just Tuesday for them. For me, it was the end of the world. And she was sitting across from me, Sarah. She didn't look at me, not once. That's the other thing I can't shake. For 12 years, her face was the first thing I saw in the morning and the last thing I saw at night. I knew every line, every freckle. I knew the way her left eyebrow arched when she was skeptical. I knew the little dimple that only showed up when she was really, genuinely laughing, not just being polite. I knew her face better than my own. And in that office, she made it the face of a stranger. She just stared at the papers on the mahogany veneer table. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap. She was wearing the gray coat I bought her for her birthday 2 years ago. The expensive one she said was too much, but then wore every single day from November to March. Seeing her in it, in that room, felt like a special kind of cruelty, like she was wearing a costume from a life that wasn't hers anymore, that wasn't ours. The lawyer cleared his throat. Okay, Mark, if you'll just sign on page 4, here, and initial at the bottom of pages 5 and 6. My hand was shaking. I tried to hide it. I pressed my palm flat on the table for a second, trying to steady it. The table was cool and smooth, solid. Nothing else in the room was. My whole body felt like it was buzzing, like I'd had 10 cups of coffee. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I was sure they could hear it. The squeaky chair, the hum of the fluorescent lights, and the frantic drumming in my chest. I picked up the pen. It felt flimsy, too light to be signing away a marriage. I looked at her again, just begging her silently to look up, just once, acknowledge me. Acknowledge that this was happening to us, to Mark and Sarah, not just 2 names on a legal document. Give me one look that says, I'm sorry it came to this, or I'm hurting too. Or even, I hate you. Anything, anything would have been better than the nothing she was giving me. She just kept her eyes down, focused, like she was filling out a form at the DMV. I felt this hot, prickling sensation behind my eyes. Oh God, no, not here. Don't you dare cry. I swallowed hard. The lump in my throat felt like a rock. I thought about the first time I ever saw her cry. We were 24, watching some stupid movie, and her dog had died a few weeks before, and a dog died in the movie, and she just broke. I held her for an hour on our crappy IKEA sofa. I remember thinking I would do anything in the world to stop her from ever feeling that kind of pain again. What a joke. I became the source of her pain, or she became the source of mine. I don't even know which is which anymore. I put the pen to the paper. The line for my signature looked a mile long. Mark J. Peterson. I've signed my name thousands of times, on checks, on birthday cards, on the mortgage for our house. My signature is usually quick, confident, a messy scrawl. This time, it came out slow, wobbly, the signature of an old man or a child. It didn't look like mine. The sound of the pen on the paper was obscene, a dry, scratching sound. It was the only sound in the room for a full 10 seconds. Scratch, scratch, initial, initial. Then I pushed the papers back to the middle of the table. It was her turn. She didn't hesitate. She picked up the same cheap pen, uncapped it, and signed. Her signature was perfect. The same elegant, looping script she used to write grocery lists on the notepad we kept on the fridge. Lists that used to say things like Mark's favorite ice cream on them. It took her maybe 3 seconds. Scratch, scratch. Done. She capped the pen, placed it neatly beside the signed documents, and folded her hands back in her lap. And she still didn't look at me. It was like I was a ghost, a piece of furniture. 12 years of waking up together, of fighting over the thermostat, of holding her hair back when she had the flu, of celebrating promotions and mourning her father's death, of building a life, a whole goddamn life. And it ended with me being invisible in a beige room. The lawyer gathered the papers, tapping them into a neat stack. "All right," he said, his voice full of false cheerfulness. "That's all settled then. My assistant will file these with the court this afternoon. You'll each receive a copy of the final decree in the mail within 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Like waiting for a package to arrive. He stood up. We were supposed to stand up too. It was over. The play was finished. Time for the actors to leave the stage. Sarah stood up, pulling her gray coat tight around her. She picked up her purse. She looked at the lawyer, gave him a tight, small smile. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was steady, clear. How was it so clear? And then she turned and walked out of the room. She walked right past my chair. Her sleeve brushed against my shoulder. I smelled her perfume, the one she always wore, white gardenia. I bought it for her on our 3rd anniversary. For a split second, I thought, she wore it for me. And then the next thought was, no, you idiot. She wore it because it's her perfume. It has nothing to do with you anymore. The door clicked shut behind her. I was still sitting there. The lawyer was looking at me, that same pitying expression on his face. "Mark," he said gently, "are you all right?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. The lie felt thick in my mouth. I felt the first tear break free, hot and shameful, and track a path down my cheek. I wiped it away, fast, furious, hoping he didn't see. He saw. He pretended he didn't. He busied himself with putting the papers into a briefcase. "Take your time," he said, not looking at me. I finally managed to get to my feet. My legs felt like they were filled with sand. I mumbled a thanks and walked out, into the hallway, down the elevator. The silence of the elevator was worse than the silence in the room. There was nothing to distract me from the screaming in my own head. She didn't even look at me. She didn't even look at me. She didn't even look at me. It just played on a loop. When we met at a friend's barbecue, she couldn't stop looking at me. We talked for 3 hours next to a dying citronella candle while everyone else was playing beer pong. We talked about everything and nothing. Her terrible boss, my dream of visiting Ireland, the best way to cook a steak. I just remember thinking, I could listen to this woman talk forever. And her eyes, they were so engaged, so alive. They crinkled at the corners when she smiled, and she smiled a lot that night. When did that stop? I keep trying to pinpoint the exact moment, the day, the week, but it wasn't a moment. It was a slow leak, a tire that loses a pound of pressure every day, until one morning you walk out and it's just flat on the pavement. It started with little things. We stopped talking in the car. We'd just listen to the radio. We used to talk. We'd recap our days, bitch about our coworkers, plan our weekends. Then just silence and the top 40. We stopped eating dinner at the table. It was always in front of the TV. Me on my end of the couch, her on hers. We were in the same room, but we weren't together. We were just two people watching the same screen. The sex became infrequent. Then it felt like a chore, something you do on a Saturday because it's Saturday. There was no passion in it. It was just maintenance. And then one day, the maintenance stopped too, and neither of us said anything about it. That was the crazy part. It had been 6 months, and the topic never even came up. How does that happen? How do you live with someone, sleep in the same bed, and not talk about the fact that you don't touch each other anymore? I know I'm not blameless. I'm not trying to paint myself as a saint here. I stopped asking about her day. I got consumed with work, with stress. I'd come home tired and just want to zone out. I stopped planning dates. I stopped buying her flowers for no reason. I stopped telling her she was beautiful. I took her for granted. I know I did. I thought we had time to fix it. I thought it was a phase, the 7-year itch, the 10-year slump, whatever you want to call it. I thought every couple went through it, and you just had to power through to the other side. But one night, she was standing at the kitchen sink, looking out the window into the dark backyard. And she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear her over the hum of the dishwasher, "I'm not happy." It wasn't an accusation. It was just a statement, a weather report. It's cloudy today. I'm not happy. And the worst part, the part that keeps me awake at 3 a.m., is that my first thought wasn't, how do we fix this? It was, me neither. I didn't say it, but she knew. I think she saw it on my face. We talked that night, for the first time in what felt like years. And all the talk was about ending it. There was no fight, no shouting, no, "How could you do this to me?" It was just exhausted. Two tired people agreeing that the road had run out. We agreed to try a separation first. I moved into the guest room. The house had never been so quiet. We were like polite ghosts passing in the hallway. "Morning. Did you get the mail?" The decision to make it permanent was just as quiet. A conversation that lasted 10 minutes. We decided who would get the house. She would. She loved the garden. And we split up our finances on a napkin. It was all so civilized, so mature, and it felt like a complete betrayal of everything we'd ever been. We were passionate people. We had huge, screaming fights, and even better, makeup sessions. We loved loud. How could we end so quietly? Leaving the house was the hardest day of my life until today. Packing my life into cardboard boxes. Every object held a memory. The stupid world's best dad mug our niece gave me as a joke. The worn-out copy of The Lord of the Rings we'd read aloud to each other one winter. The framed photo from our wedding. She was looking at me in that photo. Her eyes were so full of everything. Hope, love, the future. I left the photo. I couldn't take it. I got to my car, and I just sat there in the driveway for a long time, looking at the front door. Half of me was screaming, "Go back in there, get on your knees, beg her to take you back, tell her you'll fix it, you'll go to therapy, you'll do anything." The other half just whispered, "It's too late." The quiet part won. I started the car and drove away. And that was 3 months ago. 3 months of living in this sterile, furnished apartment that smells like lemon cleaner and loneliness. 3 months of learning to cook for one. 3 months of my thumb hovering over her name in my contacts list, never pressing call. 3 months of checking her social media, which I know is a form of self-torture, but I can't stop. She looks fine. She's with friends. She went to the beach. She repainted the living room, a color I always hated. She looks happy. Or she looks like she's pretending to be happy, which might be even worse. I got back to my car after leaving the lawyer's office. I just sat there. The engine was off. The radio was off. I could hear my own breathing. It was shaky, ragged. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red. My face looked hollowed out. I didn't recognize myself. Who is this person? The divorced guy. The guy whose wife couldn't even look at him while she signed away their life together. I thought signing the papers would bring some kind of closure. That's what people say, right? You just need to get the closure. What a load of crap. It doesn't feel like closure. It feels like an amputation. The wound is just gaping. The papers didn't heal anything. They just made it official. They just stamped failure on 12 years of my life. Why couldn't she look at me? That's all I can think about. Was it because she hates me so much that the sight of me is repulsive to her? Or Was it because she knew if she looked at me, she would cry too? And she didn't want to give me that? She didn't want to show any weakness? Or maybe, and this is the one that really guts me, maybe it was because looking at me meant nothing to her anymore. It was just neutral, like looking at a stranger on the bus. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. I don't know which one is worse. I finally started the car. The radio came on, some stupid pop song about being young and in love. I turned it off so fast, I nearly broke the knob. I drove home, to my apartment. Not home. It will never be home. I walked in, and the silence hit me like a physical force. I'd left a coffee mug in the sink this morning. It was still there. Of course it was. There's no one else to wash it. No one to leave a passive-aggressive note about it. No one to have a stupid fight about it with. A fight that's never really about the mug. I miss the fights. How sick is that? I miss the dumb arguments about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Because at least when we were fighting, we were talking. We were engaged. There was some kind of fire there, even if it was an angry one. The silence is so much worse than the shouting ever was. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. People say, focus on yourself. What does that even mean? I don't know who myself is without her. For 12 years, it was Mark and Sarah. We were a unit, a team. Now I'm just Mark. It sounds incomplete. I know this is long and I'm rambling. I'm sorry. It's just, I have to say this to someone, even if it's just to the empty void of the internet. She didn't look at me. She signed away our marriage, our history, our future, and she did it without a single glance. She erased me. In that moment, I ceased to exist for her. And I have to live with that. I have to wake up tomorrow and go to work and pretend that I'm shattered into a million tiny pieces. I have to pretend that the signature on that piece of paper didn't feel like a signature on my death certificate. The papers are signed, but it's not over. It's not over in my head at all. It just replays. The beige room, the squeaky chair, the cheap pen, and her, staring at the table, signing her name, and walking away. Thank you to the man who shared this story with us. To everyone listening, thanks for being here. We'll be back with another story soon.